Hello Answerly viewers, we just finished reading The Coldest Girl in Coldtown and I'm here today to give you my official review. Now I'll admit that I'm a huge Buffy fan. I enjoy a good season of being human. I read the Twilight books back in the day, but my vested interest in vampires sort of dies out after that. It's usually such a tired genre for me, you know, the whole exploitation of youth trope, old money, and ancient historic vampires running amok right beneath the noses of modern day humans. And I guess the sexuality involved with staying young and fit and strong forever. It's not that that isn't an interesting concept, it's just that I'm kind of tired of it. But I loved Holly Black's take on vampires, and I'm still shocked. The world that she created in this book is not a world that's been teeming with vampires since the dawn of time. It's something that's sort of happened very recently. It's a world where the infection spread like crazy only about a decade ago when one rogue vampire who doesn't play by the rules just sort of went nuts and gave it to everybody. And I think whereas most vampire novels would use this as an excuse to cross genres and create a budding dystopian society out of this mistake, I really like Coldtown because it took a different approach. Of course the US would embrace vampirism. Of course they'd find a way to exploit it and make it profitable. Kill the vampires and rid this world of a horrible disease? No, never. Let's give them a reality show. The idea of vampires going from terrifying mass murderers that go bump in the night to primetime pay-per-view television stars was a stroke of genius, and I loved every minute of it. I really loved the opening of this book. I think the bloodbath at the sundown party was such a weirdly awesome, though gruesome, climactic way to start this book, and it gave the entire story such high stakes from the very first page. Things I liked. Tana was a pretty awesome main character. She's flawed, she makes mistakes, she sometimes jumps into action without totally thinking it through, but she does what she sets her mind to, and I find that very admirable in a main character of a book. I also really appreciated how the book didn't shy away from death and tragedy. It really took you there, and it made every situation feel pretty real and visceral. I also really appreciated how it moved on from death in a believable manner, almost too quickly sometimes, but it worked because it brought the reader sort of into this abrasive lifestyle and it made you more accustomed to the sort of horrors that people have just had to get used to. I think one of the things I appreciated most about this book was the inclusion of all of the pop culture and like modern technological things, but it didn't rely on them too heavily. They weren't just put in to make this book hip with the kids. It really made the world feel real without leaning on them as a crutch to relate with your audience. I also really loved the infection process. I don't know if there are any other stories out there that have this sort of caveat to becoming a vampire. I'm sure there are, but I haven't read or seen them. But I loved that getting bitten did not just mean you were doomed. There was that 88-day period where you could sweat out the infection and make the choice to not become a vampire. I really loved, and I think that was such a pivotal theme of the book was choice and choosing whether or not you were going to give up or if you're going to fight to keep your humanity. Even though most people don't make it through the 88 days. In fact, I don't even know if there are characters who have, because the book didn't really touch on that. It's nice to know that they still have the choice. I think in worlds like Coldtown, your choices are sort of all you have. Things I didn't like. Those tacky quotes at the beginning of every chapter. We talked about this in my comments video, but if you didn't see it, I think these can be done well if they're done well. I did not feel like they were done well in this book. They always just felt sort of pretentious and not totally fitting toward what was going on. I just thought they were a little unnecessary. I also really didn't like the lack of depth in some of the supporting characters. Jameson and Valentina especially, they were such fascinating people that I wanted to know so much more about. I know you have to make sacrifices in places to tell the story that you're trying to tell, and that obviously you can't tell every aspect of every world in every book, but I think when you have such interesting characters, it almost feels a little bit like you're robbed if you don't get to find out at least a little bit more about their story. I would love a companion novel from the point of view of Jameson, honestly, because he was fascinating and we don't even really know much about him at all. Overall, I guess I would definitely recommend this book to people. I had so much fun reading it. I don't know if it's something that particularly warrants classroom discussion, although I did really like the thought that it leaves you with about whether or not vampirism is something that brings out something dark that's already inside of us, or whether or not it's something that's like an evil being injected into you. You know, I guess the overall question is whether we already have the capacity to become monsters, or whether or not becoming a monster means that you've been infected by an external outward thing. I've definitely thought about that a lot since I finished this book. I still don't have an answer, but I liked that it was a read that left you thinking about these deeper things. But again, I would definitely recommend it. I would recommend it either to people who do love vampire novels and just want to add another one to their list, or people who, you know, maybe don't think that they like this style of book, but are willing to try something new. Just a reminder, our next book is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. I'm pretty pumped to start this one. Pick up a copy, get it on your Kindle, get it at a local bookstore, whatever you want, but make sure you get your hands on it before next week. I'm going to introduce it, and then we'll start reading the first 10 chapters. If you want to get a head start, go ahead. I won't tell anyone. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.